Hey readers! So our new reading goal is thinking deeply about fiction texts. And earlier this week we talked a little bit about how we can use theme to think deeply about the books that we are reading. We talked about how we can pay attention to the plot or the events that happen in the story and then use that to help us think about, well, what are the big ideas here? What does the author want me to learn from this story? Here are some other clues in a story that might help us figure out theme. We can ask these questions. We can ask ourselves, what can the characters teach me about living to be a better person? What do the characters teach me about how to be a better person in the world? We can also ask ourselves, well, what are the characters learning from each other? Remember, the lesson is a big part of the theme of the story, and we can figure out what the author wants us to learn by paying close attention to those characters. Today, we're going to practice figuring out theme together in a read aloud called Stone Soup. I love using this book to talk about theme because it's a really, really interesting and beautiful story. So, sit back, listen as I read the story, and be paying close attention to what the characters are learning from each other and what you can learn from the characters to be a better person. That will help us figure out the theme of Stone Soup. At the end of the read aloud, you're going to write about what you think the theme is and use details from the story to support your thinking. So if you want to pause and jot some thoughts down in your notebook as I read, you are welcome to do that. But remember, at the end, you're going to tell me what is the theme and what in the story told you that. Here we go. Stone Soup by John J. Muth. This is a very famous story that's been told many times. So this book is a retelling of the story, so Stone Soup. 3 monks, Hawk, Lock, and Siu, traveled along a mountain road. They talked about cat whiskers, the color of the sun, and giving. "What makes one happy, Siu?" asked Hawk, the youngest monk. Old Siu, who was the wisest, said, "Let's find out. What makes one happy?" The sound of a bell brought their gaze to the rooftops of a village below. They could not see from so high above that the village had been through many hard times. Famine, floods, and war had made the villagers weary and untrusting of strangers. They had even become suspicious of their neighbors. Famine means lack of food. So the conflict in the village for the villagers is that they faced a lot of hard times, like not having enough food to eat, having their village flooded, and even war. So people fighting. The villagers worked hard, but only for themselves. There was a farmer, a tea merchant, a scholar, a seamstress, a doctor, a carpenter, and many others. But they had little to do with one another. So I'm thinking to myself, well, why are the villagers not helping each other? Why don't they have a lot to do with one another? But I remember from the page before, it talked about how they had been through a lot of really hard times, and it made them not really trustworthy of strangers or even really of each other. So in the end, they don't really end up helping each other. Maybe because they want to make sure that they have enough money for food for them to eat because they've lived through times where they didn't have enough food to eat. When the monks reached the foot of the mountain, the villagers disappeared into their houses. No one came to the gates to greet them. And when the people saw them enter the village, they closed their windows tight. So again, we see that the villagers are not accepting of others. They disappear into their homes, they shut their windows, and the hard times that they went through must have been really bad for them to be this closed off and suspicious of outsiders. The monks knocked on the door of the first house. There was no answer. Then the house went dark. They knocked on a second door, and the same thing happened. It happened again and again, from one house to the next. "These people do not know happiness," they all agreed. "But today," said Siu, his face bright as the moon, "we will show them how to make stone soup." So the monks are also feeling upset that the villagers are unhappy and untrusting of each other, and it seems like they are looking to try to help them. They gathered twigs and branches and made a fire. They placed a small tin pot on top and filled it with water from the village well. A brave little girl who had been watching came to them. "What are you doing?" she asked. "We are gathering twigs," said Lock. "We are making a fire," said Hawk. "We are making stone soup, and we need 3 round, smooth stones," said Siu. The little girl helped the monks look around the courtyard until they found just the right ones. Then they put them in the water to cook. "These stones will make excellent soup," said Siu, "but this very small pot won't make much, I'm afraid." "My mother has a bigger pot," said the girl. The little girl ran home. As she started to take a pot, her mother asked what she was doing. "The 3 strangers are making soup from stones," she said. "They need our biggest pot." Said the girl's mother. "Stones are easy to come by. I'd like to learn how to do that." So she's saying, if I can figure out how to make soup out of stones, then that could help feed my family. So I will give my pot because I'd really like to learn how to make stone soup. The monks poked the coals. As smoke drifted up, the neighbors peered out from their windows. The fire and the large pot in the middle of the village was a true curiosity. One by one, the people of the village came out to see just what the stone soup was. So the monks are trying to solve the problem by tricking the villagers into coming together to make the stone soup. Let's see how it works out for them. "Of course, old-style stone soup should be well seasoned with salt and pepper," said Hawk. "That is true," said Lock, as he stirred the giant pot filled with water and stones. "But we have none." "I have some salt and pepper," said the scholar, his eyes big with curiosity. He disappeared and came back with salt and pepper and even a few other spices. Siu took a taste. "The last time we had soup stones of this size and color, carrots made the broth very sweet." "Carrots?" said a woman from the back. "I may have a few carrots, but just a few." And off she ran. She returned with as many carrots as she could carry and dropped them in the pot. So what is starting to happen in this village of people who didn't help each other at all? "Do you think it would be better with onions?" asked Hawk. "Oh yes, maybe an onion would taste good," said a farmer, and he hurried off. He returned in a moment with 5 big onions, and he dropped them into the bubbling soup. "Now that's a fine soup," he said. The villagers all nodded their heads, as the smell was very agreeable. "But if only we had some mushrooms," said Siu, rubbing his chin. Several villagers licked their lips. A few dashed away and returned with fresh mushrooms, noodles, pea pods, and cabbages. Little by little, the villagers are coming out and making a stone soup together. Something magical began to happen among the villagers. As each person opened their heart to give, the next person gave even more. And as this happened, the soup grew richer and smelled more delicious. "I imagine the emperor would suggest we add dumplings," said one villager. "And bean curd," said another. "What about cloud ear and mung beans and yams?" cried some others. "And taro root and winter melon and baby corn," cried other villagers. "Garlic, ginger root, soy sauce, lily buds." I have some," people cried out. And off they ran, returning with all they could carry. The monks stirred and the pot bubbled. How good it smelled! How good it would taste! How giving the villagers had become. So the villagers are becoming so giving because the monks are helping them realize that they can work together to make the soup. At last the soup was ready. The villagers gathered together. They brought rice and steamed buns. They brought lychee nuts and sweet cakes. They brought tea to drink, and they lit lanterns. Everyone sat down to eat. They had not been together for a feast like this for as long as anyone could remember. Wow, readers, look how much things have changed from the beginning when they wouldn't even come out of their houses to greet the monks. After the banquet, they told stories, sang songs, and celebrated long into the night. Then they unlocked their doors and took the monks into their homes and gave them very comfortable places to sleep. Remember before when they wouldn't even open their doors when the monks knocked? That's a big change. In the gentle spring morning, everyone gathered together near the willows to say farewell. "Thank you for having us as your guests," said the monks. "You have been most generous." "Thank you," said the villagers. "With the gifts you have given, we will always have plenty. You have shown us that sharing makes us all richer." "And to think," said the monks, "to be happy is as simple as making stone soup." And that is the end of Stone Soup. So here's my challenge for you. Thinking about this story, think about the villagers, think about the monks. What lesson did the monks teach the villagers? And what can we learn from the villagers that would make us all better people? Thinking about those two questions will help you be able to tell me what you think the theme of this story is. Today you'll jot in your notebooks, what is the theme of Stone Soup? And use details from the story to support your thinking. Tell me how you know or why you think that. I can't wait to see what you come up with as the theme of this story.